everyone, and welcome to the sort of finale of the Adventures of Ace. Obviously, we've got the centenary coming up, but this is the finale of the classic Adventures of Ace. I'm here once again with Rory Guest, and we are discussing the Ace Trilogy, as I believe it's called.
Indeed we are.
And we're also rounding off the character of Ace and seeing how her character has progressed from Dragonfire to Survival and what we kind of hope to see of her in the Centenary.
Yeah.
So, season 26.
Indeed, yes. Season 26, one of the best seasons, in my opinion.
I'd agree with you. Season 26 is a fantastic season. I don't get why some people say it's too dark. I don't think it is.
Oh, definitely not.
Because maybe, perhaps if you wouldn't have watched 25 before, it would seem a bit too dark. But I don't know, because I've watched 25 and 26, both of them.
Yeah. I mean, season 26 is dark, but you're right. It does gradually get darker from season 25. And I'd argue it just gradually gets darker from the beginning of McCoy's tenure.
Oh, yeah.
Because, season 24 is known as one of the lighter seasons. But if you watch it, you'll notice the death count is just off the charts.
It's unbelievable. Especially Delta.
I know, Delta, they just kill every side character and the villains. And the amount of villains in that one is insane as well. I mean, they just go out of their way to kill practically everyone in that one. So I don't think, in comparisons to the rest of McCoy, I think while season 26 is slightly darker, I think it fits right in, and I think it revels in that darkness to create this sort of, these great plots. And even amongst the darkness, you still have camp fun episodes like Battlefield.
Oh yeah, Battlefield is... I don't hate Battlefield. It's probably my least favourite in the season, but I do like Battlefield because it's a bit like a rubbish Robert Holmes story. The dialogue is great. It's just the
it's
story
always been a
is
comfort
a bit
episode of mine.
I do like Battlefield.
I think it was my first McCoy story.
Really?
I think it was actually, it might be my second, because I have memories of a child, being a child watching Remembrance, the Dalek flying up the stairs. But I think Battlefield was my most watched growing up. Yeah,
I think actually since the DVD release and of course now the Blu-ray release, I do have it over there. I should bring it over in a second. The extended cut of it I prefer. The stuff with all the new effects, and the same kind of with Fenric. I've those two particular edits are of actually quite they're good.
I love the Fenric edit, but I do kind of prefer the cliffhanger sort of style, because you get the contest again, Time Lord cliffhanger, which I think just works as a cliffhanger.
That is a brilliant cliffhanger. I really love the shot actually. The shot of that at the end is really grainy in the original, but you can still kind of tell. It feels terrifying when you watch it. Everything is. I think the music actually sells that better than the actual the pictures.
The soundtrack in season 26 is insanely glorious, good. And season 25 actually. And I'd also say season 24. The entire McCoy soundtrack is just insanely, just unfathomably good. It's indomitable. I would put it up there with the Murray Gold stuff, and season 26 especially, because a lot of those soundtracks have a special place in my heart and my ears as being
the Battlefield soundtrack is just amazing.
It's just amazing. But also the organs of Ghostlight. Ghostlight's soundtrack is so ominous.
Mark Ayres is really good.
Curse of Fenric is one of my favourites of all time, a soundtrack and episode-wise.
Survival is my favourite soundtrack of all time.
Survival soundtrack.
It's just I can't remember where I watched it. I think it might have been on the making of Survival, where Dominic Glynn explains how he did how he made the music. We don't get enough of him. We don't get enough interviews with Dominic. He's in the I think it's on the Mysterious Planet making of. You only get like a 2-minute segment of him explaining how he made the theme tune. We want the full details. Is he on a bit more of season 23?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, right.
He was very much Colin Zero more than McCoy's in mine.
Yeah, well, his soundtracks are really good. All of Dominic Glynn's soundtracks are really great, actually, because I really love the soundtracks he did on Trial. His theme tune is really good. It's like when I listened to it when I was a lot like ages ago. I thought, blimey, this is scary, but I could enjoy listening to it because you got all that sort of screaming almost sounds in the background, which is interesting. And I think it's a shame that it wasn't. It was only for that season and not for longer than that.
I mean, I do love that theme tune, and I'm glad Big Finish used it for 6 mainly. But I gotta say, the McCoy theme tune, it's my favourite of the classic Who theme tunes, and probably theme tunes in general, actually. Well, actually, no, the Series 4 New Who theme tune is my favourite, personally.
New Who, yeah.
But 80s McCoy is very close. And I mean, the Howl...
Howl is my favourite of all time.
That's the one I'm most nostalgic about, mainly
that middle 8 is so good. I mean, I think the middle 8 is something that can never be done badly in the theme tune. Even the Delaware version. Oh dear. Even that's not bad, because you can still tell it's that middle 8.
I completely agree.
But anyway,
Anyway,
back to the season. So the soundtrack's brilliant, really good. The effects here are better than ever.
Definitely.
The computer effects are actually pretty good. I think Survival has the best effects out of the season, although, of course, Fenric is great. They definitely learned how to use their budget wisely on this season, which was a bit of a shame since it was the last one. Because you watch Fenric and you can tell that's the one they spent all the money on the masks. Although,
then again, the Destroyer.
Is
magnificent. And even like they were supposed. There was a story that was told by Anthony Ainley at a convention about the cheetah people masks. They were supposed to be much scarier, but then they ran out of the budget. Like like when they would have the glowing eyes and everything.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be like they would have like a fang or something and like proper makeup, but they had
And I know that Andrew Cartmel wanted them to be a lot more human, and actually when he talks about it, it does seem to make a lot more sense that it would just be sort of the stage like the Master is and Midge, where it's just the eyes and the fangs, which I think could have looked a lot better. But actually, when people make fun of the masks of the cheetah people in Survival, I just don't get it. I think they look pretty good.
I think this is the season where even like its low budget moments work in the season's favour. Like, I love the cheetah people and the 2 girls in Curse of Fenric. Very low budget, but it works brilliantly within the context of the story. I think it just works perfectly, and I couldn't tell you why, but I just say both just work amazingly for what it is. And I think,
the 2 girls in Survival are really not Survival, Fenric. I mean, they are probably my favourite characters in that story, because although we got all the Hemivores and Judson and whoever else in that story, I think that those 2 are my favourite because they've got that horrible woman. I can't remember the name of her. I did watch Fenric recently. That stays with them, and she's horrible. And when she gets her comeuppance, it's like, yeah, if she deserves it. But then actually, when they sort of go into the water and everything, and they vanish, that's actually quite a scary moment. And I think they learned how to use the smoke wisely in this season. You know, 'cause it's sort of very misty, and I think they mastered the art of atmosphere in this season, definitely.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think my favorite character from Curse of Fenric, I'm trying to think of his name, the priest. What was his name again?
Wainwright.
Wainwright, yeah, Mr. Wainwright.
He's very good. Yeah, I like him as well.
Love that character, and even like
that
Ace
shot
as
of
well.
him standing in the church, and he's basically, you can tell he's given up. You know, it's a very, very good moment.
Yeah, and the woman's name was Miss Hardacre, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Wainwright, he's my favorite character. Ace, I love Ace in, well, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But also in Curse of Fenric, she excels in that story as much, and Ghostlight actually. Judson's great character. Of course, the Seventh Doctor is brilliant in anything and everything, just like Ace.
McCoy is so good.
Captain Soren, was that his name? Yeah, that was his name.
Yeah.
And there were just plenty of other characters in that story. Like, it's full to the brim of characters, and I love each and every single one of them.
I remember I watched Fenric with a friend of mine, and we at the beginning where she holds the baby, and she's like, that's, I hate it. That's my mother's name. I thought, wait, is that? Because I'd only watched I had watched it once through before, but I'd only really watched the extended cut of it before.
Yeah.
And I thought, is that moment now going to be a bit sort of predictable? You know, you're going to find out that it is actually her mother at the end. I thought, is that going to feel predictable? But actually, the 4 episodes, because that bit is right at the start. It's like in the first 10 minutes of episode 1, and then right at the end of part 4, it doesn't feel like that at all. You know, it's a whole arc through the story.
It's a perfect throwaway because it's at the beginning, and they've got to set it up. They can't just leave it. You know, they can't just spring it on you like at the end. It's perfectly in character for Ace to call out a random baby who can't defend themselves, like saying, "Oh, that's my mother's name." When I say it like that, it sounds like she was being malicious, but you know, it was a perfectly, perfectly respectable and natural reaction for Ace to have. And then you start to get more and more hints throughout the story, and it's like seeded beautifully throughout the story, and then it kind of, when it culminates, it's amazingly done, incredibly done.
Yeah.
I think, as I said, Ace is the standout in this story from beginning to end. But also, one thing I want to mention is that this season it's got some of my favourite villains in it as well.
Oh, yes.
Morgaine, the Destroyer, Fenric, the Ancient One, the Master. The Master, that is one of his best stories.
I think Ainley here is possibly his best performance. Although I think he is. I think my favourite is him in the 5 Doctors, because he's sort of in King's Demons. He's a bit more. He's kind of pantomime, but he's very good. He is very good in that story. Even though it's not great. A
lot of people point at the pantomime-esque nature of his master most of the time as a bad thing.
I wouldn't say that.
Adore it. I absolutely adore like the cackling, maniac, bad guy.
I think it definitely works. This sort of pantomime aspect of his master in this story, because like you say, he is turning or has turned into a cat, into a cheetah person. So he would be kind of going a bit.
I think it's kind of he does kind of tone it down a bit in my view in this one.
Yeah,
I think while he does have his moments like when they're fighting, of course, he's got a cheetah. But I think he's amazing.
He's definitely got a sort of streak of Delgado in this story, or it sort of reminds me of that, because he doesn't explain his entire plan straight away. It's sort of like sort of like him,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
sort of like the Master in Terror of the Autons. You know, he shows up, he does whatever. The audience kind of know what's happening, what the Master's doing, and then right in that final scene, he's like, "Yeah, I'm." Buddy, getting the nestings down here, you know.
Question for you: how would you kind of rank this season? How would you kind of, from best to worst?
What in terms of story?
Yeah.
Well, Survival at the top for me, because Survival has always been sort of personal favourite of mine. Then Fenric. Actually, Fenric and Ghostlight, I'd say, are fairly close for me, because they both have aspects that which I like about them. So I mean, Fenric, Fenric and then Ghostlight, but only because Ghostlight took me about a year to work out what the hell was going on. You know,
I mean, I absolutely love Ghostlight.
Yeah, Ghostlight's wonderful.
It's definitely a 10 out of 10 story. I think all of this season is probably the only season in Classic Who in which I rate all of the episodes 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
every single one of them. I mean, if I'd have to rate it, I'd put Curse of Fenric best. Survival a very, very close second.
Yeah, Survival, I can't praise Survival enough, to be honest
and then,
with you.
Probably third, probably Battlefield actually. I'd
Yeah,
probably put
Battlefield.
Battlefield over Ghostlight. I understand Ghostlight, I love Ghostlight, and it's still a 10 out of 10. But I just,
I see what you mean.
Has that kind of, it's ingrained in my mind. I could tell you everything that happens in Battlefield. I could tell you everything that happens in Fenric and Survival. Ghostlight might take me a bit longer. I have a lot of nostalgia towards Battlefield as well, and I think there's nothing wrong with that either.
Fair.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I just love it when kind of fantasy elements mix in with the sci-fi. When it comes to Doctor Who, I think it just really works.
Yeah. I mean, the sets for Ghostlight are just spectacular. Because at this point, the BBC knew how to do costume dramas really well. So they had all the costumes, and then they had really good set designers who could just build the entire, build the sets.
And of course, Ghostlight was originally going to be Lungbarrow.
Lungbarrow, yes.
Originally going to be the Doctor's origin story of sorts, which would have been made for an interesting watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad it wasn't there though, because the reason they didn't do that, A, for budget probably, but B, the main reason is that it revealed too much of the Doctor's origins. Straight away. It was because the plan had sort of the Cartmel Master Plan had started in season 25. If you'd been through those four stories thinking something's going on here, and then you got to Battlefield and thought, okay, something's happening, and then straight away, Lungbarrow. This is how it happens.
Yeah, I see that. Although I would have loved it on live action, to be honest, I would have loved it on screen.
It'd be amazing.
But if I were to do it on like a realistic BBC budget, it'd probably take up an entire season. It'd probably be like
the Lungbarrow Adventures. Oh wait, no, that's gonna be a Big Finish box set. Isn't it?
Hey, if they don't make it, I'll make it.
Yeah, they haven't done Lungbarrow, have they?
No, they haven't. They've done Cold Fusion, which does.
Oh yeah.
I haven't really listened to Big Finish adaptation, but it does. The novel incorporates a lot of lore from the VNAs and Lungbarrow and all that. So I have to listen to the audio to see it.
Yeah. So speaking of the new adventures, let's see beyond season 26 now and see what happens to Ace. So. You know more about this than me, from what I gather. From
what I've really read, from what I've really seen and heard of the VNAs, Ace and the Doctor's relationship gets really pushed all throughout. I mean, it starts off with the Time Worm trilogy, which it's a strange one because
it's the first one, so
it's the first
they
one,
don't really know how to do it.
It's also it's bad. I'd say it's quite bad. Not all of them. The first one, Time Worm Genesis, that's the bad one. The rest of them are brilliant, but the first one, it was written by John Peel, who did not like the Seventh Doctor, nor did he like Ace.
Yeah, well,
so you
that's
can
helpful, isn't it?
figure why it was kind of a bad pairing to put that writer with the first Seventh Doctor story. And he, And fun, not so fun story is that he actually actively tried to kind of jeopardize it, to stop it before it even started. He
Shame.
Most of the story, it starts off with like the Seventh Doctor using this kind of like rubber to wipe his memories, and he accidentally does the same to Ace. And then throughout the story, it's just there's a lot of very dodgy stuff. Very dodgy, like the dodgiest of stuff you could possibly imagine. And it ends with like the Seventh Doctor becoming the Third Doctor to fight the bad guy at the end. So he didn't like the Seventh Doctor, didn't really know how to write for the Seventh Doctor. So in the end, ended up just by like replacing the Seventh Doctor with the Third Doctor for temporarily. And then from Time Worm, thankfully it goes up from there. After Time Worm Genesis, at least the rest of the Time Worm trilogy, while disconnected, it's relatively good stuff. I'm gonna skip a few things, but the most notable story for Ace in VNAs, I reckon, is her exit story, Love and War. Love and War is one of the best stories ever written for Doctor Who, in my opinion. It's Ace's departure, and it's like the Doctor pushes her too much, and their exit revolves around Ace pretty much breaking down and ditching him. She later comes back a few stories later in Lucifer Rising, and from then on my knowledge really kind of runs out, but she ends up on Gallifrey
Because
and there are various other things. I know what she does in Love.
What do you think of her ending up on Gallifrey?
As an ending, it works. I do quite like it. Of course, she does in Big Finish as well occasionally. She was in Gallifrey Time War. Yeah, I think it works. There are multiple endings for Ace, really. I mean, there's also a comic. What's the name? Yeah, Josh Snares recently did a comic dub. Ground Zero. That's it.
Yeah.
Ground Zero. And that's a beautiful story, and it gives Ace a very tragic departure with her dying, sacrificing herself for the Doctor, which I think also fits. I think that was quite a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
I love that story with all my heart. It's amazing, and Josh Snares did an amazing job with that.
Yeah,
of course,
it was
good. Going to appear in Sarah Jane Adventures before it happened.
Cancelled. Yeah.
Which would have been nice. It would have been lovely to see Ace back. And of course, she appeared in Farewell Sarah Jane recently.
Yeah, I saw about that.
Which was, once again, just a beautiful story, and her inclusion in that was wonderfully put together and wonderfully inserted into every other character, kind of saying their goodbyes. What else? What else can I think of on the top of my head? Because there's A Charitable Earth. The Big Finish did Dark Universe, which had an old Ace meet Seventh Doctor. She's also been Tortured recently. Her exits sort of kind of all over the place, and I love it.
But I think they need to do a definitive Ace leaving story, because I get she ends up on Gallifrey and all that, but
if you really want a definitive story, I recommend Love and War. Whether it be the book or audio adaptation, I think both do it justice, and both are just. I kind of view them as my definitive ending, but I believe this show should never have definitive endings. I believe it should. It's kind of so convoluted, so all over the place, that everything is kind of multiple choice, and that's what I kind of love about Ace's departure, is that it feels like multiple choice, because you kind of have all these different endings to go off. I can't wait to see what the Centenary adds, but I mean, even a focal point that was mentioned in like A Charitable Earth, was her timeline being all over the place, and I love it when the show kind of revels in that, when it doesn't restrain itself with its own rules, with its own timelines and continuity and canons. I think it would just suffocate if we hold it to that kind of standard.
Yeah.
Which isn't even a standard. It's the show holding itself to that kind of controlled standard. And there was also like Sophie Aldred cameoed as Ace in a fan film named Doctor Who Velocity, one of their episodes, and they wrote an exit for her as well, which is very tragic as well. I think
yeah, it's. I love Ace, and I love how many exits and how many continuations she's had in all these different forms, and I just love it.
So survival was the end for Ace on screen. Well, apart from Dimensions in Time, but we don't mention that. But it was not the end for Sophie Aldred in the visual Doctor Who universe. That's right. Oh, do we really want to
talk about Sir Charles' face? Hey.
No. Well, we could do, but here we go. So, Sophie Aldred appeared in the BBV.
Oh no, I didn't
video.
know you were gonna go there.
yeah. The BBV video of the Stranger series,
Christ.
More Than a Messiah.
We don't. Oh.
No, we do not talk about.
So instead of talking about Dimensions in Time, we went straight to BBV.
Well,
dear.
I mean, we can get to Dimensions in Time in a minute, but this is before, isn't it? I think.
I'm not sure. But yeah,
let me check.
BBV. What's not been said? It's it's not. It's not the. I don't really know how to start. I mean, Bill Baggs for starters. Hate the man. Terrible creative. Constantly, with how he treats the show and how he treats the properties within the show and the creatives and these characters, even how he kind of and how he kind of exploited all the actors that worked with him, and that he paid them very little and they all ended up kind of going away from him, and the fact that he hired he hired a nonce and harbours a nonce recently.
Precisely.
So he's not a very nice man. Don't really like him much. So and
so we can laugh at the crap he made in the 90s.
Yeah.
So right.
Sophie Aldred isn't really playing Ace as per se,
she's not playing Ace at all. She's playing.
I mean, she did
planet.
in his audios.
Oh yes, she did. What do they call them? Audio adventures in time and space.
That's the one, and it was the Professor and
Ace.
Dorothy
Exactly.
Ace. Yeah, it wasn't
literally called her Ace, which. I mean, the whole thing about that audio series was, he asked for the license, the BBC said no, and he just made it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and then there's of course the one thing that I can really talk about with Sophie in BBV is her and Colin Baker. Now, as soon as I mentioned that, I think everyone knows about the scene I have in mind. Now, Bill Baggs
it's not even the scene, is it? It's just a shot.
Yeah. I mean, Bill Baggs had an obsession with getting Colin Baker shirtless. Every film he did, every VHS he did, had Colin Baker shirtless, and I mean,
it goes. What is it? Is it in Zygons? Is it in that one?
I don't even bring up Zygons.
I mean, we saw plenty in Planet of Fire. Let's be honest, but
yeah.
Okay.
God, we don't bring up Zygons. But yeah, BBV, I don't think much needs to be mentioned, especially in terms of Sophie Aldred being in it, because she wasn't in many. I think the only really notable BBV production with Sophie in it is the one with Colin Baker in it, and that's nothing to do with Sophie. Sophie tried her best with what she was given. It's just BBV in it.
So, as we mentioned, Dimensions in Time.
No. I actually like that.
Well.
I'll say that.
Here we go.
I like it for what it is. It's an oddity. It's, I don't take it seriously. It's just a bit of fun at the end of the day. And then there's nothing really to hate about fun. It's not really well written. It's just throw everything at the screen. And I kind of love that. It was a charity event. Would have preferred Dark Dimension. For sure.
Because Rick Mail would have been amazing.
Oh yeah, he would have been brilliant, and giving Ace lots doing that as well would have been amazing. Yeah. But I'm still glad we got what we got. I'm grateful for that, and I think it was a lot of fun in the end.
Yeah, Dimensions Time. So the TV movie, obviously Ace doesn't appear in that, but
I mean,
how can we explain that, if someone didn't read any of the books at all, how can you go from survival to the TV movie and think, what the hell has happened to Ace? Or how can you not,
I guess there's not really that much of an answer to that, because of course we don't see it on screen
No.
yet, at least. But there are plenty of audios, plenty of books, plenty of comics. There are plenty of pieces of media that kind of fit in that kind of space. But if we're taking in the context of the time, if we're thinking about it like at the time, how would the people kind of thought? And I just imagine it would have been headcanon, really.
Yeah.
I think survival is, at the end of the day, that's a brilliant ending for Ace and Seven. No, I think
absolutely.
that monologue at the end as well. Everything about it is just amazing. But of course, tune into Big Finish, read the comics, read the books if you can, just anything really. I think every little bit of it just really develops Ace more than the TV show, and the TV show developed Ace a hell of a lot.
I would be surprised if there wasn't at least a Big Finish reference in the centenary, because I feel like it is going to be that kind of.
But then again, we kind of
hope
that with the haunting of Villa Diodati, but didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I hope this is more. I hope it happens this time.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Stephen Moffat did it with Night of the Doctor, so. And canonised the entire 8th Doctor audios. So, I mean, what, Big Finish is there, and it is there to be canonised, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. I think everything. I don't even really agree with canon as like a term or something that can describe or contain Doctor Who. I think. At the end of the day, every story is valid. That's how I look at it. Every single story in every different medium, everywhere is just valid. That's Yeah.
Well, to round off, so we don't have to open up another Zoom meeting because it's going to cut us off. What do we want to see of Ace in the centenary? Do we want her to be in it loads, or do we want her to be in it just a little bit?
I would like her to be in it loads. I feel like she should carry on to the 60th, perhaps. I feel like that'd be really cool.
That'd be a brilliant idea.
She should definitely appear in the Rusty Davis era. I think she should appear in it loads. I think they should bring up Big Finish, maybe Fenric, a lot of season 26, maybe the Pete McPhee, collection trailer.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it would be amazing for her to kind of still be developed. Don't just bring her in for one-liners or just to mention moments. Just capture the character and give her a good story. Do not kill her off, or I will.
No, don't. Don't mess with her character. Just let her be in it.
If they bring back these classic companions just to kill them off,
what's the point?
I will get very angry, and I don't like getting angry at Doctor Who.
I'm excited for Ace to come back. Obviously, that's why I've done this series. But I'm also excited for Tegan to come back. But it doesn't quite fit into my headcanon because I read the resurrection of the Daleks novelisation, and she basically dies at the end of that. So,
anyways, we should probably end this off now. While we still have time.
So, where can everyone find you on social medias?
Right, very quickly, I'm Rory. I own a YouTube channel named Rasslon Productions. You can find my audios, you can find my podcast, The Talk Good there, where I hopefully will get Isaac on that show as well. You can find me on Twitter, RasslonP, at RasslonP, Rasslon Productions. Check out my audios, Doctor Who Dark Days, I've got a new series coming out soon called Doctor Who 456, and I've got plenty more coming out in future, including a Doctor in Distress cover. Tune in for more on my channel, and of course subscribe to Isaac as well.
Thank you. Listen to what he says. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the series, and I hope to see you in the next video where we might be reviewing the centenary. I don't know. We'll find out.
Bye-bye.
See you, everyone.